At 13:47 hours in occupied Zaporizhzhia, 12 Ukrainian drones are screaming toward a Russian ammunition train at 97 but the operators controlling them don't know that Russian artillery has already found their position. The first 152-meter shell lands 800 meters away, close enough to shake dust from the ceiling. The Russians detected them the moment 48 brushless motors powered up simultaneously. That electromagnetic spike lit up every sensor within 10 kilometers like turning on stadium lights. The operators have a choice: abort and survive, or continue while under fire. They have roughly 12 minutes to reach the train. The Russian artillery needs maybe 3 minutes to find them. They decide to continue the mission. A BTR spots the drone swarm and opens fire. Tracers arc through the morning air. The formation splits instantly. 4 high, 4 low, 4 straight through the middle. Machine gun rounds zip through empty space. But here's what the Russians can't see. Each drone trails a fiber optic cable thinner than a fishing line, while Russian jamming floods every frequency with 10 kW wide of interference. These cables carry data at light speed. Completely immune, the $10 million electronic warfare vehicle below them might as well be a very expensive paperweight. While the drones were now on their way, Russian artillery had found the operators an exact location and started pounding the position. But the Ukrainian operators had prepared for this. They positioned themselves in 3 separate bunkers spaced 500 meters apart. And here's why that specific distance mattered. A 152mm artillery shell creates a lethal radius of 300 meters at 500 meters spacing. Even a direct hit on one bunker wouldn't affect the others. The Russians could eliminate one bunker, maybe 2 with incredible luck, but never all 3. 8 drones would always survive to complete the mission. The second round lands 600 meters away, closer, but still searching. Through the lead drone's camera, the operator can see the target clearly now. Black diesel smoke rising from the train. It was approaching an area where the track ran straight for 2 kilometers through open terrain, too far from defensive strongpoints, too exposed for close protection to matter. The Ukrainians had studied this route for weeks. The window would last exactly 97 seconds. The third round impacts 450 men away. And this one changes everything. Shrapnel from the explosion whizzes through the air at about 500 ms, and 3 pieces find their marks. The fiber optic cables of drones 2, 5, and 8. The cables, only 8mm thick, are severed instantly. These 3 drones immediately switch to backup battery power and radio control. But that means they are now vulnerable to jamming. The other 9 drones, their fiber optic cables intact, continue transmitting data through pulses of light racing through glass at 200 km per second. The operators in Bunker 1 make the call. Continue the mission while relocating. As they grab their equipment and move to the backup position, the 4th artillery round slams into the ground just meters away. But they are already gone. Sprinting through the connecting tunnel to Bunker 700 meters to the east, the artillery will have to reacquire. And that will take time they don't have, though 3 drones are now vulnerable. The 9 still connected by fiber optic cables are completely immune to the electronic warfare. Radio signals travel through air and can be disrupted by flooding those frequencies with noise. But fiber optic cables transmit data as light bouncing through glass fibers. Jamming radio waves to stop a fiber optic signal is like trying to stop someone's flashlight by shouting at it. The physics simply don't interact. The 3 drones on radio backup, however, are about to face their first real test. The Matadi R-330 GTEL cell. Electronic warfare vehicle positioned at the rail junction detects the drone swarm at 7 kilometers and immediately activates its transmitters. 10 watts of electromagnetic energy flood every frequency from 100 MHz to 2 span. Enough power to overwhelm every commercial drone control channel, GPS signal, and radio communication within 30 kilometers. The 3 drones running on radio backup after their cables were severed go dark instantly. Their screens turn to static. But the other 9 keep going. Inside the Zitelza command cabin, the operator watches his waterfall display change as the system begins pumping out even more energy. Every frequency is saturated with its jamming signal. He's successfully created an electromagnetic bubble 30 kilometers wide. On his scope, 3 drone signals had winked out instantly, but 9 others kept coming, their signals impossibly clean. He checks his equipment, confused. How are they still transmitting through 10 kW of jamming? The operators try switching frequencies to 4 GHz to 5, 8 GHz, and every known military band. Soon, the GTEL is broadcasting noise across the entire spectrum. It's like trying to have a conversation in a room where 1,000 speakers are playing different songs at maximum volume. The 3 drones on radio control are now flying blind, continuing on their last heading until their batteries die or they hit something. But here's the beautiful irony of electronic warfare. It's indiscriminate. The GTEL's iron massive jamming field doesn't just affect Ukrainian systems. The BTR-82A crew at Checkpoint 9 can see the drone swarm approaching on thermal imaging and tries to radio a warning to the Panzer air defense system 3 kilometers away. Nothing but static. Their military radios are just as dead as the Ukrainian frequencies. The Russians have blinded themselves while trying to blind the enemy. The 9 drones with intact fiber optic cables fly on, completely unaffected. The ZTEL could pump out 100 Korp Wantsao, and it wouldn't matter. The $10 million electronic warfare vehicle designed to knock NATO drones out of the sky at 30 kilometers was absolutely powerless against drones connected by what was essentially very long fishing line. The train engineer, warned about possible drone activity during his mission briefing, pushes the throttles forward. The convoy accelerates from 42 to 48, then 52, finally maxing out at 56, the absolute limit for 4.0 tons of cargo on aging track. But acceleration creates a new problem. Every kilometer per hour faster means the intercept point shifts 17 meters further down the track. The Ukrainian operators have to recalculate continuously. Each course correction burning battery power they can't afford to spare. The BTR crew at Checkpoint 9 has exactly 8 seconds to engage. That's how long the drone swarm will remain in their engagement envelope as it crosses perpendicular to their position. The gunner traverses his turret, trying to calculate the lead angle for targets moving at 27 missiles. At that speed and angle, he needs to aim 15 air ahead of where the drones are. He opens fire with the PKT machine gun, 800 rounds per minute, arcing through the afternoon air. By the time he calculates the proper lead and walks his fire onto the flight path, the swarm has passed behind a tree line, 8 seconds to acquire, track, lead, and engage 9 targets the size of dinner plates, moving faster than highway traffic. The geometry is impossible. Every round misses. The BTR gunner had trained for this scenario countless times in simulators, but reality was different. In training, targets moved predictably. The drones jinked randomly every 2 seconds, up, down, left, right, like drunk hummingbirds. Through his sight picture, he can see the fiber optic cables trailing behind them, glinting in the afternoon sun like spider silk. He tries to lead them properly, but it's like trying to shoot the shadow of a bird. By the time you aim where it's going, it has already changed direction. The BTR commander pounds his fist on the turret. He can't even report the miss because the radios are still jammed. The 9 surviving drones press on toward the train, now 2 kilometers from intercept, but the Panzer air defense system at the rail junction has detected them on thermal imaging. Its radar, designed to track cruise missiles, filtered out the tiny drone signatures as ground clutter. The operator switches to electro-optical mode, manually tracking the incoming swarm through what is essentially a very expensive telescope with guns attached. But despite this, the Panzerot would prove that sometimes one lucky shot is all that's needed. The Boy Panzer's Doars twin, 2 A38M autocannons, open fire at 3. Dwusadmate. But the gunner isn't trying to hit individual drones. That would be like trying to shoot mosquitoes with a rifle. Instead, he sets his 30mm shells for airburst detonation. Each round is programmed to explode at a preset distance, fragmenting into 400 pieces of steel shrapnel in a 4-minute sphere. At 5.0 rounds per minute, he is creating a wall of metal between the drones and their target. Drone 6 vanishes in an orange fireball at 2. North 3 seconds later, drone 11 explodes. The 7 surviving drones immediately scatter in 3 dimensions. 3 climbing to 200 m, 3 dive into grass height, 1 maintaining altitude but jinking laterally. This forces the Panzer gunner to make a choice. The Panzer was designed to stop Tomahawk cruise missiles and F-16s, threats that behave somewhat predictably. But these drones moved like angry wasps, and the gunner faced an impossible choice. His computer recommended engaging the high group. They were easier to track against the sky, but his training said, engage the closest threat first. He has 2 seconds to decide. He chooses the high group, not knowing he'd just repeated the same mistake that got another train wiped out 3 weeks before. He elevates his barrels toward the climbing group, committing to that target set Classic mistake in air defense. You always engage the closest threat first because it has the least time to react, while the Panzerzet's guns track upward, chasing the climbing drones. The low-altitude group accelerates toward the train, unbothered. The gunner realizes his error, but can't traverse fast enough to reacquire. The low drones are already past his optimal engagement angle. But this isn't the only wall of lead the drones have to fly through. As they close in on the tracks, a platoon of Russian soldiers at Observation Post 7 adds their firepower. 40 AK rifles firing in synchronized bursts. But the shot is near impossible. The drones are crossing perpendicular to their position at 27 minutes. At a 200 m distance, each drone spends exactly 0.74 seconds in a soldiers a sight picture. Human reaction time is 0.25 seconds. Target acquisition and aiming takes another 0.5 seconds. By the time a soldier can squeeze the trigger, the drone is already gone. Meanwhile, 4 special drones that had been flying at 500 meters altitude dive toward the railroad tracks, 800 meters behind the speeding train. They release their payload simultaneously. Thermite charges that ignite on impact with the rails. Thermite isn't an explosive, it's a mixture of aluminum powder and iron oxide that burns at 2. Railroad steel burns at 1. The thermite eats through the rails like acid through paper, transforming 4 sections of track into puddles of molten metal within seconds. As the drones continue their approach, the Panzer's barrels glow cherry red from sustained fire. Modern DD autocannons can maintain maximum rate of fire for approximately 45 seconds before heat warps the rifling. After that, rounds tumble instead of spinning, and accuracy becomes worthless. The gunner has no choice but to cease fire for cooling. This creates a 12-second window, an eternity in combat, where the sky is clear. 7 drones push through the gap. Battery warnings flash amber on the operator screens. The fight against headwinds and constant course corrections has drained power faster than calculated. Drone 3 shows 18%, Drone 7, 21%. They need 30 more seconds to reach the train, but have maybe 20 seconds of powered flight remaining. Smoke from the thermite-ignited grass fires drifts across the battlefield on the afternoon wind. Thermal imaging can see through darkness, rain, and fog, but not through smoke. The carbon particles absorb infrared radiation across all wavelengths. For crucial seconds, every Russian defense position loses visual contact. The drones punch through the smoke at 400 meters from target. Their cameras show individual details on the train cars, unit markings, rust patterns, and even the white stencil warning on Wagon 22. Class 1, 1 explosive. The fiber optic cables are approaching maximum extension at exactly 12. They will release automatically to prevent tangling. 10 seconds to release. 5, 3, 2. The first cable releases 13 mm short with a simple spring-loaded mechanism, originally designed for fishing reels. Drone 1 transitions come to battery power. Now 8% remaining, enough for maybe 18 seconds if everything works perfectly. The other cables release in sequence over 3 seconds. The drones are now flying free, no longer immune to jamming, but also too close to stop. 1. U-53M from impact and closing at 27 ms. The train-like engineer sees them through his windscreen. 7 black dots growing rapidly larger against the afternoon sky. He slams the throttle forward past the mechanical stops, overriding every safety governor. The diesel engines immediately redline, but pushing harder actually makes things worse. The driving wheels lose traction and begin spinning on the rails. Steel on steel has a coefficient of friction ton of 0.78 when static, but once the wheels start slipping, it drops to 0.25. The harder he pushes, the more the wheels polish the rails instead of gripping them. The train actually loses 2 cuts, but he keeps going. The Panzer tries one final engagement, but the drones have entered its minimum range, 500 meters, where the autocannons can't depress below 5 degrees. The system was designed to engage cruise missiles and aircraft approaching from above, not ground-skimming drones. 20 million of air defense technology defeated by basic trigonometry. The gunner can only watch his screen as 7 drones disappear below his engagement envelope. Russian soldiers at the final checkpoint open fire with everything they had. Machine guns, AK rifles, even RPG-7s detonated as improvised flak bursts. But the drones are following the exact center line of the railroad tracks, using the 600 meters train as cover from lateral fire. To hit the drones, the soldiers would have to shoot through their own train. The geometry protects the attackers perfectly. Drone 3's battery dies completely at 100 meters from target. The motor stops instantly, props windmilling uselessly, but the drone's momentum carries it forward. At 97 padam and with minimal air resistance, the dead drone will glide the rest of the way there before aerodynamic drag can stop it. The operator had calculated this perfectly. The drone would coast the final distance on physics alone. Through the last functioning camera, the operator watches Russian combat engineers attempting to decouple Wagon 22 while the train is moving. The coupling is under 4.00 tons of tension at 56 km/h. The safety mechanism is specifically designed to never release under load, preventing catastrophic separation during normal operation. The engineers might as well have been trying to untie a knot made of steel while it was being pulled by bulldozers. Drone 9 catches a lucky burst from a PKM, shrapnel clipping its battery pack. It tumbles into the wheat field 400 meters short. 6 drones remaining. The operators had calculated for 60% losses from the start. They only needed 4 hits to achieve mission success. The margin is still positive. At 13:59, the lead drone slams into the coupling between the locomotive and the first wagon. The RPG-7 warhead detonates on impact. Its shape charge creates a jet of molten copper moving at 800 misses, 9 times the speed of sound. The massive steel coupling pin shears instantly. 4 more impacts follow in precise sequence. Wagon 3's fuel valve assembly ruptures, spraying pressurized diesel. Wagon 7's brake line is severed, locking every trailing wagon's wheels. Wagon 18's thin-skinned ammunition car takes a direct hit, starting a chain of secondary explosions. Wagon 22's ventilation system is penetrated. At 13:59 and 18 seconds, inside Wagon 22, 12 tons of TOS-1A thermobaric rockets have been slowly heating from vibration-damaged seals. The warhead impact pushes the internal temperature past 447 degrees. The auto-ignitioner's point. The fuel-air mixture detonates with a pressure wave propagating at 3. Wagons 20 through 24 simply cease to exist, vaporized into plasma. The blast wave lifts wagons 25 through 47 completely off the rails, flipping them end over end across the countryside. The mushroom cloud climbs to 1. In 4 seconds, 800 worth of modified racing drones have erased 127 million in Russian military assets and severed the only rail line feeding 3 mechanized divisions preparing for tomorrow's assault. Bye for now.